What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Neon Spotlight. This is the segment on my channel where I go back through Neon's entire filmography from the first film they released all the way until whenever I get caught up. And I knew absolutely nothing about this movie before I went in to watch it, like zero. I didn't know anything about the plot of this movie. I literally just saw a star-studded cast and read a brief plot description, and that made me excited enough to check this thing out. And the movie I'm going to be telling you about today is Luce. Luce is directed by Julius Onah. A star athlete and top student, Luce's idealized image is challenged by one of his teachers when his unsettling views on political violence come to light, putting a strain on family bonds while igniting intense debates on race and identity. So, like I said, knew very little about this movie before I went in to watch it, but I was really excited to see it because of the incredible star-studded cast in this movie. And what I will say is this is easily in contention for my favorite thing I've watched in Neon's filmography thus far. It's a brilliant film. Aside from some moments in the movie that I don't think work as well as others, I think the conversations surrounding race and identity and like societal expectations on people are fascinating. And I think what's the most fascinating part of this movie is a lot of the questions in the film remain unanswered, and for good reason, because a lot of these questions in life are unanswerable. And I think that that's what makes this movie so incredibly brilliant. And I'm really excited to tell you about it today. So at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Luce, played by Kelvin Harrison Jr., who is incredibly liked at his school. He's very popular. He is a star student, and we learn really early on that his parents, Amy and Peter, played by Naomi Watts and Tim Roth, adopted him when he was younger from war-torn Eritrea, and they brought him to the United States, and he had a very hard time adjusting because of how awful his life was when he was living there. And so he's just this incredible success story at his school because he's done really well in athletics. He's an incredibly bright student. He's very well spoken. They have him give all of these incredible speeches at the school. And so because of that, he's very liked by his peers and the people in his school. Well, simultaneously, we are introduced to Harriet Wilson, played by Octavia Spencer, who is a teacher at the school that teaches history class. And her and Luce don't seem to have a very great relationship between teacher and student. And one day she asks them to write an assignment from the perspective of a world leader. And Luce writes a paper that kind of gets under Harriet's skin because it is about I can't remember who the prolific leader is, but a leader who spoke on communism and essentially brought forward ideas that in regards to colonialism, that the way to fight back and win is through violence. And simultaneously she searches his locker and finds a bag of fireworks, and she believes that that means that Luce is upset with the system in one way or another, and that he is going to somehow incite violence in the school. And the entirety of the film is after this series of events occur and Luce's parents are brought into the picture. There's a lot more that is unraveled about Luce's character, information about the friend group that he hangs out with, that bring up all of these really fascinating questions about race and identity. So like I said, this movie is absolutely incredible, and there are a ton of reasons for that. For starters, the performances here are amazing. Naomi Watts and Tim Roth, two incredible actors that are known for their fantastic work, and while they're not in the movie a ton, they both provide quite a bit to the film. But the two standouts in this movie are Kelvin Harrison Jr. and Octavia Spencer. Anytime the two of them are on screen together, it is completely and totally electric. They are phenomenal in embodying these characters in a way that brings forth so many interesting conversations, and I loved that so much about this movie. Like, the performances in this are just so utterly captivating. It's impossible to break your attention from the screen just because of how amazing of a job that they do. Cinematographically, this movie looks really beautiful. There's a lot of attention to detail and where the camera is placed. This movie has kind of a lingering sense of dread from the very first frame, and the cinematographer does a really great job kind of painting a picture through the visuals that help add to the overwhelming anxiety and uncertainty that the film is trying to put forward for the viewer. I also love the choice of music in this. There's some really like unique musical cues, especially like there's this really loud, aggressive musical moments accompanied by like a shrill, almost like yell that sort of reminded me of like Death Grips music. Like I know I'm being fun. I didn't even look it up afterwards to see, but that's really what it sounded like to me when it was cued into the film. And it was just really helped kind of keep you on the edge of your seat and keep that anxiety incredibly palpable for the entirety of the runtime of the movie. But what I love so much about this is the conversations that arise because of the subject matter of the movie. And what I find so interesting about the culture that we live in and the society that we live in, race is an incredibly taboo subject. And for me, from a very young age and still into my adulthood, I have always been perplexed at the fact that people can be treated differently or judged poorly based on their skin color, like you're a human being. Number one, you don't choose where you're born, you don't choose who your parents are, you don't even choose to be alive. And we live in this world where, like, because of someone's race or their sexual identity or orientation or religious choices, that people are willing to persecute others for how they are brought up. And I live very true to the mentality that I am okay with how you live as long as you are not causing physical harm to someone else or mentally deteriorating someone for your like harmful rhetoric. Like if you live in a peaceful way that makes you happy and you're not harming anyone, I don't see why people care so much about people's life choices. And I think what's interesting in regards to race is there's so much volatility and hatred towards people solely because of their skin color. And it's something that's always really perplexed me. And I think what this director does so brilliantly is he examines so much of the nuance surrounding very in-depth, complicated conversations about race that as a white man, I can't even completely commentate on because I haven't had that experience. I've never had to worry about driving a car and getting pulled over by a police officer and worrying whether I'll survive the encounter because of the color of my skin. I'll never have to worry about that in my life. And I can't even imagine what that's like. And what I liked so much about this movie is whether you get into the initial conversation of a black person being upset by how the system in the United States of America operates, especially the system in regards to favoritism towards white students or favoritism towards more well-spoken black students, which I thought was really interesting because Luce seems to really try to build friendships with people in the black community in his school. There's one kid there named Deshaun who like got in some trouble. I can't remember if it's for drug possession or what it was in the school. And he's trying to be there and like a support for him to kind of help him stay out of there. But Deshaun has this really incredible piece of conversation and at a certain period in the movie where it's like you don't ever have to worry about the things I do because of the way that I speak and the way that I present and where I come from. And it's like if you have any kind of accent or you speak with a certain dialogue, like people will perceive you differently. And I just like it's so interesting when you think about that in certain parts of the black community. And just like when you look at black students that get to grow up in a more wealthy community or that have more privileged liberal parents that give them a better opportunity than someone per se that grows up in a lower income area. And there's a lot of really interesting conversations surrounding those ideas here. And then you even kind of pivot in the direction where the film starts to talk about sexual assault victims and people experiencing that and the conversations around it and the blame that goes into it and then the uncertainty when someone speaks up and like believing women and all of these really interesting ideas surrounding sexual assault and sexual violence, especially in high school and college campuses, which has been incredibly prevalent over the years where women will speak out and you know they're silenced solely because of a person's stature in their community. And like if it's like, oh, that person could never do that, well, do you know human beings are human beings? Like people are capable of horrible things. It doesn't matter who they are or how they've presented their whole life. And then there's an interesting conversation surrounding Octavia Spencer's character when Luce kind of questions the treatment of her towards students and kind of like better performing students of color and how they're put on a pedestal and there's different expectations versus other students of color. And there's just so many incredible nuanced conversations that I could get into with you about this movie. And I think that's the best part about it is you might not necessarily receive a definitive answer on them, but getting your brain firing about these ideas is so incredibly important because we live in a world right now where the current administration in office really hates you if you're not wealthy and white. They really do. They really want this world to be filled with wealthy white people. We can see that the President of the United States' current bill is cutting Medicaid for hundreds of thousands of people that probably voted for him and that are going to gut their ability to get the care and access that they need to survive, especially when you're looking at like 65 and above. And just all of the things that they're doing to show they don't care about the lower class, they don't care about people of color, they don't care about the queer community, they don't care about American citizens, they don't care about people who live here. And governmental entities are elected in office to help the American people. They are brought into office because they are supposed to speak for us and fight for what makes us better. But instead, they try to make these laws that hurt marginalized groups, that make people's lives worse, only to pad their own pockets. And so I think a lot of these conversations that are in this film, when you look at it projected on a larger scale when it comes to governmental entities and their perception of people and the way people of color are perceived in this country, it's just really incredibly fascinating. And I would commend you. This movie's streaming for free on Tubi right now. Go watch it. It is incredible. This director is phenomenally talented. He did an incredible job with this movie, and I'm really looking forward to watching it again in the future. So have you seen Luce? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I'm already looking forward to watching it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.